Sometimes the people who hurt us the most are the ones who seem the kindest at first. They smile, they listen, they make you feel seen, and slowly, without you realizing it, they begin to influence how you think, how you feel, and even how you see yourself. You start questioning your own decisions. You start wondering, am I overreacting? Maybe it's my fault. But here's the unsettling truth. Some people understand human psychology well enough to quietly control it, not with force, not with threats, but with subtle emotional tactics most people never notice. And the scariest part? These tricks don't just happen in movies or crime stories. They happen in friendships, in relationships, at work, sometimes even inside families. Once you see these patterns, you can't unsee them. And today, you're about to notice them everywhere. Imagine this. You meet someone new. They're incredibly kind. They compliment you constantly. They message you every day. They say things like, "I've never met someone like you." At first, it feels amazing. You feel appreciated, valued, special. But after a while, something changes. The attention becomes inconsistent. The warmth fades, and suddenly you find yourself trying to win back the same affection that once came so easily. This is the first dark psychology trick people use: love bombing. It begins with overwhelming kindness. Not because the person genuinely cares, but because intense attention creates emotional attachment very quickly. When someone showers you with affection early on, your brain releases dopamine, the same chemical linked to reward and addiction. You start associating that person with happiness, and once that emotional connection is strong enough, the control begins. Suddenly, the attention disappears, and without realizing it, you start chasing it. Pause for a moment and think. Have you ever met someone who seemed almost too perfect at the beginning? Sometimes intense affection isn't love. Sometimes it's strategy. Now let's talk about something even more dangerous: gaslighting. Gaslighting doesn't look dramatic from the outside. It happens quietly. You say something simple like, "I remember you said this yesterday," and the other person responds, "No, I never said that." At first, it seems like a misunderstanding, but then it happens again and again and again until eventually you start doubting your own memory. You begin thinking, maybe I misunderstood. Maybe I'm remembering it wrong. Gaslighting works because it attacks your sense of reality. The manipulator slowly replaces your confidence with uncertainty. And once someone no longer trusts their own perception, they become incredibly easy to control. This is why emotional manipulators rarely shout. They whisper, because quiet confusion is far more powerful than loud arguments. Here's another trick you might recognize: the silent treatment. Someone suddenly stops responding to your messages. They avoid conversations. They act distant, but they never explain why. And the silence feels heavy. You replay every interaction in your mind. What did I say wrong? Did I upset them? Your brain desperately tries to fix the tension, but that's exactly the point. Silence creates emotional pressure. Humans are wired to seek resolution, so eventually many people apologize even when they did nothing wrong. Think about that for a second. A manipulator doesn't need to argue with you. They just need to make you uncomfortable enough to chase their approval. Another tactic is playing the victim. Some people never take responsibility. No matter what happens, they are always the one who was wronged. If they hurt someone, they'll say, "You're misunderstanding me. If you knew what I've been through, you'd understand." At first, you feel sympathy. You want to help. But over time, something strange happens. You start carrying emotional responsibility for someone else's behavior. And slowly, the manipulator escapes accountability. Because if they're always the victim, they can never be the problem. There's also guilt manipulation. You've probably heard phrases like, "after everything I've done for you," or "I guess I just care more than you do." These words seem harmless, but they create emotional pressure. Instead of making decisions based on what's right for you, you begin making decisions to avoid feeling guilty. Manipulators understand something about human nature. Most people would rather sacrifice their own comfort than feel like they've hurt someone. Then there's another subtle trick: information control. Some people intentionally hide important details. They only reveal parts of the truth, because when someone controls the information, they control the narrative. Imagine hearing only one side of a story. Your reaction will naturally follow that version, and that's exactly why manipulators carefully manage what you know, not with lies, but with selective truth. And finally, one of the most confusing psychological tricks of all: fake kindness. Some people are extremely polite, always smiling, always agreeable, but something about it feels slightly off, because real kindness expects nothing in return. Fake kindness always has a goal: influence, advantage, control. The person may appear generous on the surface, but underneath that kindness is calculation, and the moment their goal is achieved, the mask slips. Here's the realization many people eventually have: manipulation doesn't always look evil. Often, it looks charming, helpful,
Hey, look at
even loving. That's why intelligent, emotionally aware people still fall into these patterns, because manipulators don't attack your weaknesses, they use your strengths, your empathy, your loyalty, your willingness to understand others. So pause for a moment and reflect. Think about the people in your life, not with suspicion, but with awareness. Do their actions create clarity or confusion? Do you feel stable or constantly uncertain? Healthy relationships make you feel stable. Manipulative ones make you question yourself. The goal of understanding dark psychology isn't to become cynical, and it's definitely not to manipulate others. It's simply to recognize patterns. Because once you see these tactics clearly, they lose their power. And awareness is one of the strongest forms of protection a person can have. Sometimes, the most powerful change in your life doesn't come from controlling others. It comes from finally understanding the hidden games some people play.